So John, Brandon says, I need a cut of this episode that makes me understand all these fucking vitamins.
I needed that too, Brandon.
1980s now.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now, a weekly examination of the importance of 1980s pop culture and its influence today. My name's Will, and joining me, as always, are my friends and co-hosts, Vitamin K and Vitamin J.
Hey there.
Hi there.
Get your fix.
Part of this nutritious breakfast.
Hey, everybody listening to us live right now on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. I think we got to get off of Facebook Live.
Okay.
I've got to find out
That'll
if this will
teach 'em.
affect folks. It's just, we get muted too often and getting potential copyright strikes. I have to fight them, and then usually we win, but it's and then it's like you have a certain amount of strikes and you certain other things go, I don't know, whatever. It's just a hassle. All right. Hey, check this out. So on today's episode, we're going to ask the question, why doesn't anyone sing about working for a living anymore? I've got some ideas, but I was shoveling for like the 10th time in a week here in Northeast Ohio, literally. And I had another playlist playing, and it was, albeit it was 80s songs. But Huey Lewis's Working for a Living came on, and I thought, it just struck me as I'm doing this back-breaking, snow shoveling. Again, it was like the fourth time maybe in 2 days. And literally my lower back is starting to hurt. I thought, why doesn't anybody sing about this kind of stuff anymore? Actually doing work. We'll talk about that.
Will needs a snow shoveling playlist on Spotify.
Yes.
Somebody hook him up.
I thought you were going to say Will needs a snowblower. Then he would avoid coming up with dumb topics for the show. But too late. Before we get to that, though, we're going to review current news stories related to 1980s media, and we've got a few doozies for you here, including, hang with me, folks. Hang on.
Doozies.
Trump
We are hanging
appoints, not you, everybody else. I know you guys are, ride or dies types. But Trump appoints 80s icons to made-up ambassadorships. We got a Masters of the Universe Origins and Thundercats crossover figures coming from Mattel. I'm not sure I'm a fan. I'll explain why. Kelly Clarkson covered Depeche Mode as a country song. I think that's what I'd call it. And the Toxic Avenger reboot that we've talked about a number of times in the past is finally coming to theaters.
Hey.
So they say. But it does seem promising.
Allegedly.
This time because of the folks that are involved. Hey, there's time codes in the show notes if you want to skip around and do it in any order you want. That's fine. But meanwhile, after you're done skipping, don't forget to check out Gen X Grown Ups podcast that's hosted by our very own dear friend here, Vitamin J. Okay. Lark Park says, I know Johnny Cash covered Personal Jesus, which is not bad. It's a great cover. Yeah, he did a number of covers, right? My favorite is, I hurt myself today.
Hurt is a grab that one.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Hey. Speaking of hurting people, let's get caught up on 1980s news and do some damage to the audience. I don't know, whatever. That was a bad segue.
Ouch.
I thought you were going to say dancing, not damage.
Do some dancing, yeah. Hey, this week in 1980s news, per Entertainment Weekly, Trump appoints 80s icons as, quote, ambassadors to Hollywood. So on the Sunday before he was inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States, Donald Trump announced a new political designation on stage at the Make America Great Again Victory Rally. Ooh, what's that acronym? MAGAVR. MAGVR. But toward the end of this hour-long address, Trump said, quote, I got Mel Gibson, Sylvester Stallone, and John Voight to become ambassadors of Hollywood, California, to put it back on track. So they're all ambassadors. You have to refer to them as ambassadors, Mr. Ambassador, end quote. Trump first signals his intention to appoint the roster of conservative actors, two of which rose to worldwide renown in the 1980s, to the unprecedented position in a Truth Social post back in January 16th. After the announcement, Gibson, who recently lost his Malibu home in the Palisades fire, told Entertainment Weekly that he wasn't aware that Trump would be handing him this made-up role. Gibson remarked, quote, any chance the position comes with an ambassador's residence?
I like that.
His house just burned
He
down.
didn't say that, did he?
Yeah, he did.
I like that.
Marcus says the acronym you're looking for was DIPSHIT. Voight also shared his sentiments with Entertainment Weekly, noting, quote, very few films are made here, but we are fortunate to have an incoming president who wants to restore Hollywood to its former glory, And with his help, I feel we can get it done, end quote. Now, this had me thinking immediately, and I'll just tell you guys right now, I'm not a fan of President Trump. If you can't handle that, okay, that's fine. But it had me ask the question, at least, is Hollywood, suffering, as a suggestion is? And if it is, what can a president of the United States do to help? So I started digging into this, and not going to surprise you, but the film and television industry has been offshoring production. They actually call it runaway productions that are not made in the U.S. or are not made in California. And there's different reasons for doing this. Sometimes the demographics of a particular region may provide the type of casting they need. Maybe if it's a foreign film or set in a different country, they go there. It may be because of the locale. Certain places may be good stand-ins for even prior eras of the United States because, those countries are slower to, replace old architecture, for example. But most often, of course, the reason is it's just cheaper. Now, it turns out, I was surprised that this isn't a new phenomenon. In fact, I found an article talking about how back in 1952, the Hollywood Film Council of the American Federation of Labor launched a campaign to stop runaway productions. And at the time, the head of the organization, Dolph Thomas, said he didn't have any problem with folks going because of the casting or the locale they may have needed, but not to save money, essentially. But the response that he got 60 years ago is virtually what they're saying today, which is, if we can't make it in these other places, we're just not going to make them at all because it's too expensive to make it here. But this is consistent with every other industry in the world. It's cheaper to do stuff elsewhere. Look, I don't agree with that. I wish it weren't the case. Right. But it's cheaper to do everything around the world, other places. And so that's what happens.
Well, soon there'll be an ambassador of microprocessors and an ambassador of paper goods. And anywhere things are being offshored, just make up a title and assign somebody who has no control, by the way, over the industry. Assign them the ambassadorship. I mean, I don't know if you know, but Mel Gibson is an actor. And he doesn't run Hollywood.
That's Mr. Ambassador Actor to you, John.
Right. John Voight, Sly, they're actors. Yep. It's not as if you went and got a diplomat who has meetings with all the muckety mucks in Hollywood all the time and said, all right, now you're my eyes and ears on the ground. They're just guys waiting for a part. They work there like anybody else. It's like going to the guy who greets you at Walmart and going, you are now the ambassador of the entire Walmart chain. Like, they don't have to tell me what's going on. That's okay. You just let me know.
Yeah.
I just work here.
And even still, I mean, what are they going to hear? I think they'd hear what every other industry has said to folks, that lament the fact that we offshore stuff. Well, okay, make it cheaper for us to pay, maybe, put some laws or regulations in place that we can pay people less. Nobody wants that, because then those people can't afford to buy the products these people are making unless they lower the prices.
Well, that's all part of the master plan. All the prices are going to come down. So,
yes,
we will afford it.
Right. Yeah, I know.
I have so many things I could say about offshoring.
Well, I mean, if there's something I could say that's not cynical, is that fine. If there's a way, certainly, to bring more jobs into the United States, absolutely. Yeah. But everything is a system. Everything is a system. You can't just change one part of the system without changing all of the interconnected and interdependent parts of the system. And I'm not sure that 3 aging actors are the guys that know all of those moving pieces. If there was a good faith effort and desire to make some sort of a change, we need somebody who understands the industry and works inside of the industry at a high level to be able to do that. I think those 3 actors are great figureheads, the great representations of an idea.
Sure.
They're concepts of an idea, perhaps you might even say, but it's not really the solution to assign these 3 actors.
I see what you did there. Kat, you said you had opinions about offshoring.
Well, I do. I'm sort of wondering where all the Trump branded things are made.
Oh, well, that's true too. You don't have to wonder. You know. You can. No, you do know, right?
I do know.
You don't have to pretend like you don't know. We do know. I mean, his stuff is made overseas.
That's right. So is he going to appoint an ambassador of the Trump organization branded? Yes.
Right.
A tie-making
ambassador of gold sneakers. Yes. Ambassador of Bibles.
Yes,
certainly.
I know.
And one other thought, is it possible that this could be related to, I'm aware that he is unhappy with his lack of popularity over in that region of our United States, over in Hollywood.
California, decidedly blue state. Yeah, sure.
Right. And I wonder if this is just some way for him to try to increase his popularity, to paint a picture of having fans and having influence in an area where he so desperately wants to be popular. He wants them as part of his fan base, shall we say.
In theory. I mean, I don't know what what are the action items you could take to do that. He's not going to change any minds, really.
I don't think so, but it just feels like a gesture towards that.
Well, I think
it's just something.
Look, I didn't mean this to be a political discussion necessarily, but it does seem like he likes to have the appearance of fixing things, right? Even to the extent of proclaiming that he's going to fix something that it can't be fixed. Certainly not in a more complex way than just appointing 3 actors to these made-up positions. But there are some real things that can be done, at least, right? Because we know we can't lower labor costs. That's not going to happen. The cost of goods in the U.S. or it's whatever the market will bear. That's not going to happen. And Karen points out it's not just the actors; they have crews too. Yeah, that's a big part of the problem. It's cheaper to use a crew over in a different country than it is in the U.S. Yeah. But one thing that they are doing, at least in states throughout the U.S. have been doing this, and also Canada and other countries, is offering incentives, financial incentives. Yeah. In California right now, at least as of today, there's a $330 million cap on the amount of, money available for California probably to write off or forgive us or not tax you on as far as the production goes. Gavin Newsom, hearing the pleas of Hollywood, to try to address what Trump is claiming he wants to fix, has proposed raising that to $750 million, which wouldn't go into effect until this summer. But there's California still competing against even states in the United States like Georgia, which doesn't have a cap at all.
Yeah, right next door to me. Georgia is huge for production, and not just live production. Animation is done there, huge volume because the lack of that cap of being able to write off production costs. Tax write-offs. And you mentioned Canada, both ones I was thinking of. So many of my favorite shows are shot in Canada. And it's like, this little town in Canada was made to look like this town in Philadelphia.
Yeah, you don't even know. Right, yeah.
Very common.
But whether even this tax incentive passes is no telling whether or not it'll help stave off California shipping stuff overseas. I don't even know, not being in the U.S., I don't know what their laws, they could do whatever they want, I imagine. So, but what is interesting to me is it seems like this puts Trump, at least, he's going to have to ally himself with folks that he's been insulting for years, including Gavin Newsom, if he really wants to do something.
Yeah.
And the only other thing, the thing that maybe that is within the power of Trump is something on a national level. And in October last year, Representative Adam Schiff, who's I don't know if he's sworn in yet, but he's probably a senator from California now, proposed that they offer national incentives that would be on top of whatever any state offers. So if Trump is to save Hollywood, it's like he suggests he wants to do, he's going to have to align himself with Gavin Newsom and Adam Schiff, 2 people he's got nicknames for that are not flattering.
To fix any problem in a real way, that's not just lip service, and I'm not just talking about one side or the other, it requires reaching across the aisle. It requires working together, not being adversarial. It requires some sort of olive branch, some sort of acknowledgement of your differences, and then try to move forward. And it's something that we don't do incredibly well in the United States, certainly not in the last half decade or so.
Yeah. I had once fantasized that, can we tie their salaries to these things? You have to have enough bipartisan legislation with no pork and things snuck in there in order to get paid, period. Now, the reality is, though, there's some portion of these folks that don't need to work at all. They don't use that salary. That goes right into an investment or something. There's a good number of Congress people that, are still probably
They're
working.
I don't even need your money. Right.
Right.
Don't worry. Special interest will take care of me. I don't need your money, your salary money. I live off lobbyist dollars.
Brandon says, aren't a lot of films shot in Ohio? I have heard that certain cities in Ohio serve as accurate backdrops for other bigger cities. There was a time, yes, Brandon, that's correct, because within a short area, you could have, cornfields, or you can have very urban-looking areas. Cleveland stood in for New York City in a number of the Marvel films. I used to work down there and be able to see those shoot. Superman was here most recently, was shot in Cleveland and in Cincinnati, but it's not as much as it used to be, and in part it's because I did a little research on this years ago, because of the tax incentives offered by other states. I think even Michigan offers better tax incentives than Ohio at this point. But yeah, unfortunately, and they really screwed up downtown Cleveland by putting this giant ass chandelier in the middle of the street. You can't run a camera truck down the street anymore. Oh, whatever.
Oh my goodness.
Marcus says, what is the benefit of bringing movie production back to California or to the U.S.? Well, of course, I mean, I'm sure Marcus knows this. The concern is that, well, then local folks would have jobs. Mostly the crews and those types of folks have a job. Obviously, the actors travel, but if they'll use a camera crew.
They get paid no matter what. For every I say inch of film, it's all digital. For every inch of film that's shot, there are 24 staffers that you don't see that are making that inch of film happen. Right. And it's the food crews, it's the grips, it's the production staff, it's the designers, it's the costumes, it's the wardrobe department, it's all those things you might not see or know you're seeing, but would grind to a halt with all those supporting things. So, John Voight's going to get paid whether they shoot in California or they shoot in Taiwan. It's all the people in California that would benefit from having him shoot there because they don't work in Taiwan and they don't make a wage off of that.
Which is interesting to think of someone on a national level, like the president talking about, I'm going to fix, help Hollywood. And, considering what I just told you about the legislation that's proposed in the state itself and the comments about these actors, it seems like, they're interested in keeping the business there in California. But if someone who's on a national level, that means you're screwing over Georgia, for example. For you, you just want all your children to be happy and it be equitable. It is kind of interesting that you think, well, I'm going to pick sides. And because the offices are in California, let's try to get the production back there. Fuck you, Georgia.
Right.
It's kind of a weird thing. Karen says we have a lot of Tyler Perry things here. Stranger Things filmed here. Will Trent. Oh, I love Will Trent.
Yeah. Don't take production away from our 51st state.
Mm-hmm. Hey, in other 1980s news, as reported by comicbook.com, Masters of the Universe Origins and what does the X mean when they put something in something?
Crossed with?
That's a collaboration. That's a collaboration between.
Okay.
Yep.
Masters of the Universe Origins Thundercats crossover figures have been announced by Mattel. So following the launch of their popular Masters of the Universe Origins Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles of Grayskull crossover lineup. Shit, they got it. It should just be MOTU TMNT.
Learn from Megaver.
Collect those action figures, yeah. Anyway, Mattel's confirmed a Thundercats collab is on its way for 2025. Along with that announcement, the company's provided images of the first figures in the collection, which are set to hit store shelves in April. And based on the prior figures that I just mentioned, they'll probably go for about $90 for 4.
$20 a pop is what I saw in the article when we were buying it individually. Yeah.
Okay. So wait a second. That's more than 4 times 20 is 80. And then
that's a terrible
maybe
deal.
It's a set of 5 for 100. That might be
okay. Yeah, and it might be different. Yeah, it may be different. But the wave will include, do you say MOTU? M-O-T-U? I've seen it like that, but I always think Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, it's MOTU.
All right, MOTU. The wave will include MOTU mashup figures of Lion-O and Chitara, along with new characters like Skelra, which is Skeletor and Mumra combined together, and a reinterpretation of Battle Cat as a humanoid Thundercats warrior.
Oh.
And I've got some pictures to show you here. So here, first we'll take a look at, this is Skelra. Now I've got in the picture in the corner there, Skeletor as he appeared in the 1980s cartoon. So we could, be mindful of what he looked like, at least in his original, incarnation. So here what they've done is you have the option of, so Skelra comes with Mumra, and then you can rearrange Mumra to make him into a Skelra, which is Skeletor mashed up with Mumra. Skeletor and Mumra, yeah.
Weird.
So already I'm like, I don't know. It just looks like Skeletor with a different helmet on and wearing a dumb-looking cape. Like maybe he landed on the ground, like splat. That cape. Why is the cape shaped that? Maybe they just want to show it to you, and the cape hangs down.
It's spread out to. Oh, right.
I hope.
Maybe he's lying down. It's laying out on the ground behind him.
Right. So, because here's the Mumra. So that figure that I just showed you, I think you get them both together with interchangeable parts that allow you to create either of these. Either you have a Mumra that looks more or less like the Mumra from the cartoon, or, as I mentioned, you could tweak it and make it into a Skeletor Mumra mashup, which, again, it's whatever.
So the transforming thing is interesting, but who needs a Mumra mashed up with Skeletor? I want a Mumra. That's cool. I think the extras are just like, since this is a mashup, we've decided to mash this up. That was kind of weird.
That was my question. Who asked for this?
Yeah.
Did someone ask for this?
Kurt says...
The Mumra did. He really wants wings.
Kurt says the Skeletor looks like he's going to the Met Gala.
Yes.
Who are you wearing? I'm wearing Mumra. That aside, take a look at what they did with the, let's see, the other one here. They have Lion-O. Now, I purposely put the cartoons here so you could see or question, what did they really change?
No, this is fine. It's just they're in the shape of, not Super Friends reference, not intended. They're in the shape of MOTU characters.
Right.
You know, like there was a line of like horror figures that looked like He-Man figures. You had like Freddy Krueger, but he was beef and built like He-Man. You know, there's a line of those that I've seen.
Yeah.
And so they're so popular, like putting these characters in that He-Man. Like there's no mashup here. You're right. It's just, which is great. That's what I want. I want a character that is the character that I remember. I don't need you to mush him up with something necessarily. He's cute, but it's optional. And he's not quite as buff, is he? As like a He-Man figure. He's a little more svelte.
Oh yeah, he's built like Lion-O is built. That's why I don't even understand this as a mashup. All they did was put his symbol from his belt around his chest and give him a loincloth instead of the little undies he usually wears.
Well, Kurt wants to know or comments, Lion-O looks like he gets hair done from a 1960s beauty shop hair blower.
Yeah, right. You can figure they picked that up. And
yes.
He's been riding a motorcycle with no helmet. Blow back.
Karen wanted to know, why were there holes in the wings or the capes or whatever on the other guys?
I guess because
battle damage.
Yeah, battle damage. He's evil. Evil people don't care. I don't know.
They don't care about their cloaks. They just leave them tattered.
So here's Chitara. Again, now that you've made that comment about they don't tweak it too much, it's just as if they're from Eternia, I suppose. I kind of get it. But again, this is, not a whole lot of change. She still has the same tights. They just added a loincloth to them. It looks more like a towel you'd add at the gym when you need to wipe the sweat off.
This mold looks like an Evil Lyn, though. The shape of the figure is very Evil Lyn-esque.
Okay.
So I think there's a decent fit. It's somewhat accurate.
Okay.
But again, not that different than just a regular character would be from Thundercats.
All right. Well, then here is, I guess, then, sort of confusing then to me, because most of these figures we've seen so far are as if the Thundercats lived in the world of He-Man. But the final entry that they have here is Battle Cat.
I love it.
And Battle Cat is made as if he lives among the Thundercats, and he is a cat. So
that's cool.
This makes more sense to me.
This fixes the goofy Pluto problem, right?
Yes.
Which is like, wait a minute, are you a dog that walks? You a dog that people that is a pet? And you're like, well, if you're gonna have Masters of the Universe cross with this universe of cats, he wouldn't just be a ride-on beast of burden. Not to minimize the awesomeness of Battle Cat, but he would be his own sentient character. This is the smartest mashup of these. Like, well, in this universe, cats are much more aware and they're self-aware and they're humanoid. I think that's cool. Now, this is a Brundlefly mush-up thing that makes sense to me. I liked it.
Yeah, this is my favorite too for the exact reasons you said. Yeah, it makes the most sense. The other ones are just confusing to me.
Right, because otherwise, can't you just see like the Thundercats are like, why are you riding that cat? What's wrong with you? Would you ride me?
Yes.
Is that how you feel about cats? Oh, no. Abraca, boom, he's a sentient human.
Right,
there
yes.
He's humanoid. Sorry.
No cat racist He-Man.
Right.
He's being canceled. Troll on YouTube says Battle Cat looks sick. Yeah, I agree. Eric says He-Man Thundercats crossover is breaking my brain. The He-Man WWE crossover was bad enough. Oh gosh. That also sounds like one that wouldn't have a lot of, I don't know, necessarily have a lot of changes, or you'd recognize it as a mashup.
Reminds me of in the mid 90s, Playmates, who at the time both had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle license and the Star Trek license. They put out 4 Ninja Turtles in Star Trek uniforms.
I like that. That sounds cool.
That's clever.
Yep. And of course, each uniform was in, whatever, the purple one and the red one and yellow. They just
Donatello.
had that style. Yeah, those. They just had that color of like their uniform shirts on, but over their shells, or I forget what they look like. But I got them up in the attic. I have them in the collection. But
I want to see
goofy.
those.
I bought them because
that would be
I was
cool.
young and dumb.
Brandon says I was passive until seeing Battle Cat. Looks pretty damn cool. Yeah, I know. Can we just get the Battle Cat? I just want that one. Probably got to buy them as a set for $90 when we could buy 4 of them for $20 each. Chad says he has I have four of those turtles.
And Donatello would be in engineering for sure. Yes, Kurt.
Oh,
There you go.
I'd be curious. Yeah, that'd be interesting. What uniform he has on.
Leonardo would be on the bridge. He'd be the captain.
Gold, sure. Is it Raphael would be, he's the one that gets killed right away, right?
He's a red shirt.
Oh, I get it. I get that.
you got
I
there.
understand that reference.
I want double credit. I want credit for making a reference you get and credit for knowing the color of Raphael's stuff. I want double credit, please. Okay.
Bestowed.
Yay.
There you go. Hey, in other 1980s news, as reported by Billboard, Kelly Clarkson covered Depeche Mode, but as a country song. Maybe country songs goes too far. I'll play it for you in a moment here. So on the January 21st episode of the Kelly Clarkson Show, Clarkson tackled Depeche Mode's Just Can't Get Enough, which is one of my favorite songs from the early 1980s. She did it in an installment that she calls Kellyoke, which I'm not familiar with, but that's cleverly titled at least. Back in 1981, the platinum-selling track was the third single released just a month before the group's debut album, Speak and Spell. The song reached number 8 on the UK singles chart and number 26 on the Billboard's Dance Club Play chart. Now, unlike the original synth pop tune, which was written incidentally by the electronic music pioneer, Vince Clarke, who not only did the music for Depeche Mode early on until he left. Before that, I'm going to say it was before that, he was Yazoo, which is known as Yaz in the United States. And then he went on to do Erasure, which I think he's been pretty much Erasure ever since. Anyway, in spite of that version that Vince, banged out all those years ago, Clarkson added her characteristic Southern twang to a rock-leaning, country-ish version of the song played by her backing band. Let's see. I got it for you here. You can tell me what you think about it.
When I'm with you, baby, I go out of my head, and I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. All the things you do to me and everything you say, I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. You slip and slide as we fall in love, and I just can't seem to get enough.
What do you guys think before I say anything?
It's fine. I'm enjoying it, but it's so different to me from the original version because there's no synths. There's no, I don't hear the keyboards. I miss that.
And they're not even imitating it or with another instrument, interpolating it with another instrument. Yeah.
No, they're not.
I think I like her version better.
Oh, really?
And I'll tell you why, not because I don't like the original Depeche Mode song, but it's more of a love song in this way. In the other one, I just can't get enough with the synth and with the driving rock. It's a little less heartfelt. And the way she's singing it, it's more of like, you hear the emotion in her voice about how much she can't get enough of your attention and your love and everything. And the other one's just like, I just can't get enough. Like it's a party song. And this is more like a relationship love song. I like that. It's almost like she reinvented it in a way for me. So I look at them as different, but I think I like this one a little bit better even because I always liked the lyrics of the song, but didn't feel it was conveyed very well in that style.
I didn't even think to compare them in that way, John, like which one I would choose. I guess for me, they both exist in and they both exist for me. That sounds bizarre.
Yeah.
They're variants. Yeah, both in the same world.
But I really like it. Yeah, I really dig it. I was surprised because, even from the beginning, first few, guitar chords, I was like, I don't know, what is she doing with this? But then when she started singing, and she's a fantastic singer, and it started to come together. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I agree with you, John. She does elevate it in a way. The original for me has got a special place, I guess.
It's almost a different song in a way. It's like, it's like, it's a cover, but it's almost like, it's like Candle in the Wind, right? It's like, it was performed one time and one way it meant one thing. And now it's being performed, after Lady Di was killed, it performed for her, but with different soulfulness and different meaning almost.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I think of, it's the same song, but with two different intents. And I like this intent a little better.
I was wondering as I listened, if I didn't know ahead of time that it was a cover of Depeche Mode, if I would even have noticed. And I sort of wish that I'd had that experience of just someone saying, oh, here, listen to this song. Would I have said, what? Oh, she's covering that song? Or would I have just kind of, enjoyed it for what it was, not realizing?
I think you would have. I
feel like maybe I would have. But I have a question about covers. We talked about this one time, and I'm trying to make sure I'm remembering correctly. So when someone covers a song, it's expected that they stick close. There was something about that, right? Can you re-explain that?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that I don't know. I'm not familiar with any case that's ever come up as a result of this. But according to the law, anybody can cover any song, right? The only thing you have to do is pay the artist a statutory fee per publication or per sale or whatever. You can negotiate it, but there is in the copyright law, all right, if you want to cover it, you owe them X, But you're right, Kat, one of the requirements, I suppose, to avoid infringement is that you stick as closely to the original song as possible. Yes. And I think the idea is that, well, I don't know what the idea is, honestly, because other types of way of avoiding infringement, we talk about transformation, that something's been transformative. It's a little different. You added your own thing to it. But yeah, that's the way it is in the law. And one of the examples I remember from law school was talking about changing genres might be problematic.
Well, and this feels like that, right?
100%. But I'm
not
never
trying to cause any problems.
In practical, and all practical. I'm not aware of any example with anybody filed a lawsuit.
But then when you do that, how far do you go before just like you're walking into the darkness and it's getting darker and darker and darker. And then eventually you start to walk into a new pool of light. Like, how far do you walk out of the infringement until you're, and now it's parody. Now we're so far away from it that we're protected under parody. So it's like that gray area. And then I think there's this great band called Hayseed Dixie, who is strictly an AC/DC cover band done in bluegrass theme. And I always considered that to be borderline parody, though they didn't change the lyrics. They just entirely transformed the genre. Yeah. And I wonder if they had to pay AC/DC or, you could get the blessing, I guess. You can negotiate down to 0 or something. But what if you're not getting money for it? It's a novelty band, then it's almost parody again. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the court has answered some of these questions and does have sort of, ways of doing that. The biggest thing I could think is all of this is to protect the original person, right? From losing money as a result of an infringement. Yeah. So maybe the idea of you keeping it close is that you don't disparage the original somehow. Like people think, oh, this country song sucks. And so they see Depeche Mode just can't get enough. Like, oh, I heard that. That's garbage.
Interesting.
That's it. But John, you raise an interesting point. But
if you make enough fun of it and you disparage it enough, it's parody.
I guess
it's like, where's the line?
I guess the question you're raising is simply changing the genre enough. So you brought up Richard Cheese once. Richard Cheese will stick to the lyrics, but sing it in this ridiculous loungy way. Could he argue that's parody? I don't think so. You have to change more than that. Usually it's the lyrics, obviously, or it's always the lyrics, I guess, obviously. But
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars.
Yeah. Now that might get you sued because you changed it too much. It's not parody because you didn't change the word.
But it is.
That might be a good example of.
Copyright law is crazy.
It is.
It is crazy, and it's not clear cut, right?
No.
I saw that Kelly Clarkson also did a cover of Depeche Mode's "Enjoy the Silence."
That's right.
And so I was curious to see if that had a country flair, and I found that it did not. To me, it sounded as if I weren't looking, I'd think, oh, this is a stage show of Depeche Mode. And they brought somebody else on stage to sing the song. The music, the instrumentation was much more similar to the original song.
Kurt says, by turning Depeche Mode into a country song, Kelly Clarkson answers the question. Yes, we can get enough.
Ouch. Yikes. And there it is. We just found it. We now have enough.
Hey, I know it sounds like we've got some giant corporate sponsor behind us, but we don't. Instead, our show is brought to you every week by listeners just like you. And by brought to you by them, I mean they help pay for the bills, and there's a bunch of them, to bring you a quality podcast about 80s nostalgia and its continued impact today. Hey, to join this group of fantastic folks, please go to patreon.com/1980snow. And if you can't do that, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and the podcast platform you're listening to right now. In other 1980s news per variety, the Toxic Avenger reboot is coming to theaters in 2025. I think I'm exhausted just waiting to see this. I don't care anymore.
Oh, no.
That's a good point.
Well, fuck it. Whatever. Macon Blair's long in limbo reboot of the classic trauma horror comedy has been searching for a distributor. We talked about it several months ago. Well, it's finally found one in the form of Cineverse, which is, I believe, the folks behind the Terrifier movies. At least the distributors, I guess.
That's right. Yeah.
If you remember, the film premiered a couple of years ago at Fantastic Fest and then another festival around the same time to rave reviews, mostly. In fact, it still holds a 92% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I guess one of the dozen people that saw it. I mean, how much weight does that hold?
20 people saw it and only one hated it. So
Yeah.
nice average.
Yeah. But in spite of all that, it couldn't find a distributor. And we're not sure why. I saw some people speculate in the comics that maybe Peter Dinklage's contract required it had to be in theaters. Otherwise, they could never release it or something like that.
Oh.
Anyway, that's just rumors and innuendo. But in an interview with Collider's Steve Weintraub last year, Dinklage did jokingly suggest that fans needed to, quote, write to their congressman.
Now you can write to the ambassador of Hollywood and get it released.
These guys are going to be so busy. Please hold. Please hold. Please hold.
That's right. I need to speak with John Voight about this trauma movie about a guy who falls in sludge.
Right.
I don't want to talk to you about that. Hey, you're the ambassador. It's your job now.
Son of a bitch. Trump!
I want them to handle the Wile E. Coyote movie problem that we're having. That we're not getting to see it.
Right. Exactly.
Let's start writing
Mel
to these
Gibson,
three guys.
let me talk to you about Wile E. Coyote.
Yes.
And Warner Brothers in general.
Oh, what are you talking about? I understand Wile E. Coyote act.
We've got a new character, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's just Wile E. Coyote act movie.
Let's save Hollywood one shelved movie at a time.
There we go. One at a time.
Well, in the reimagining of the 1984 low-budget original, Dinklage plays Winston Goose. That's a little on the nose, right? A health club janitor who gets a terminal diagnosis. When his employer refuses to pay for his treatment, he tries to rob him, but ends up in a vat of toxic waste instead.
Whoopsie.
And then transformed into a misshapen monstrosity, much like in the first film, Goose becomes the toxic Avenger and goes on a limb-ripping rampage of revenge to clean up the town. If you remember that trailer, it is bloody.
Rampage.
The trailer is it's the most gory, certainly trailer I've ever seen. It may be one of the most gory films I've ever seen. That was just a trailer.
And you've seen the trailer for The Monkey, too. So that's saying something.
It is,
Right.
yes.
Right.
That's true. That was haunting, that toxic
Yeah,
Avenger
how do those
trailer.
compare? Ooh.
Director Blair said in a statement, quote, "It's so cool that folks will have the chance to see this in theaters. It's a fun, rowdy movie you'll want to see with the crowd. Mutant hero smashes bad guys with a mop. Perfect entertainment for the whole family."
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited to see this.
Oh, you are?
Because I watched the original recently. Well, not super recently. Within the last year, I saw the original.
Within the time frame we've been waiting for this movie, she saw the original. So
Yes.
anytime in the last several years. Right.
I sort of imagined the new one would be my first viewing of the Toxic Avenger, but no, I was able to.
Did you
get to
watch the
that.
trailer, Kat?
I did a while ago. I didn't
okay.
watch it today, but I did watch it. Whenever
Knowing
we
that,
first talked
I'm
about
surprised you want to see it. It was so haunting, the gore to
this.
me.
I'm getting more and more okay with the gore and the ick and the yeah.
And she expects it will be hilarious. So
I'm just
limb ripping, that sounds like a hoot.
gonna guffaw my way through.
Karen says Toxic Avenger sounds more like a Sylvester Stallone thing. Gibson for Wile E. Coyote sounds good though.
Well, that's right. We don't have to. We can save these films 3 at a time because we have 3 ambassadors.
Yes.
Frankly,
We'll get John Voight on Batgirl.
Oh no!
by our powers combined,
Yes.
we shall save all of Hollywood.
The good news of this film, I suppose,
I don't know what you're talking about, Hollywood. Nothing wrong with Hollywood.
I don't even know who he's impersonating anymore. Kat, do you
That's
know?
amazing.
Cat knows what I'm doing.
I do. It's amazing.
They're so specific that I don't know. It's weird. It's almost you're too good. I'm entering that black tunnel you talked about.
Too good is not the problem.
And I'm
I assure you.
blinded by the light.
He's entering another pool of light.
I'm entering another pool of another character. Or maybe John is, yeah. The good news is this film, this new take on this, was produced by Lloyd Kaufman, who created the original film way back in the 1980s. And in fact, Kaufman loves it. He said the reimagining of his character is better than his version.
We call that the Kelly Clarkson effect.
Yes. Along with Dinklage, the film stars Kevin Bacon, Elijah Wood, and a bunch of other people we don't know. It will be released sometime in 2025. We don't know when. And come on, would you be surprised if suddenly it wasn't going to be released? I mean, I wouldn't either.
Nope.
But you could see the original on Prime Video right now. All right, hey, haven't heard me say this in a long time, but that was 1980s news. So, all right, here's just a simple exercise. All right, for everybody, let's on us with the live now. For you listening at home or in your car, Kat and John also think about any song that is about working, and I can tell you right now it was released before 1990 without even knowing the song.
Well, at first I thought of 9 to 5.
Okay.
That popped into my head.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a follow-up commentary that relates to this one, though. So I thought of Loverboy, Working for the Weekend.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I also thought of, well, of course, there's Working for a Living by, Huey Lewis. And one other one, which I don't know if it fits the theme exactly, but do you remember Morning Train, Sheena Easton's? Yeah.
Which was called 9 to 5 in the UK.
Oh, I did not know that.
It came out around the same time as the Dolly Parton song, so they changed the name in the US where Dolly's song was doing better.
Many of the other ones that came to my mind were country and western songs.
Okay.
I don't know the names of all of them, but I think of the one that's saluting all the different workers. This is for the one who drives the big rig up and down the road. It's not the Statler Brothers. I forget who it is. Anyway, might be the Oak Ridge Boys. I think it is Oak Ridge Boys. Anyway, but they're calling out all the different professions in America and saluting them for, punching the clock and whatever. So it's about working, not them working. They're musicians. They're saluting all of the workers, though. I thought of that one. Yeah. And so many of them are about, I couldn't think of specific ones, but I think of so much country music that's about, as soon as I get off work, I'm going to head into town and put on my best shirt and my clean boots and, pick up my girl and whatever. So much of that country music is about getting off work and finally celebrating the fact that you're done putting in the grind.
To your knowledge, John, are any of these songs post 1990?
I can only think of one, and it's not even about working. Really, there's a song by Jason Aldean where he talks about getting off of work and then starting. My Kind of Party is the song. Okay. It begins with him getting off work. And that's definitely in the 2010s or something, but
it's not
really about work. It's not really about work. I could not find any. I was trying to defy your proposition and I couldn't find any.
Yeah. So I did some digging. Obviously this started as something that, just a gut feeling, and did some research and found a top 25 list of quote unquote working songs. In addition to those, obviously I dug through some other lists to find others. And there were a few songs post 1990 and some of them as recent as in the last 2010s, 2020s, but they used work as a euphemism. Oh. Like Britney Spears talking about you better work or work it or whatever, work it bitch or whatever she says.
Right. Work bitch. Right. It's actually about putting in effort. It's not about actual employment. Right.
Right. Yes.
Exactly.
Which, it gets a little bit close, but most of the other songs, some of them even was a metaphor for sex,
Right.
That sort of thing.
Again, vitamin W stands for work.
There you go. Get it in you. But here's a few others. And I noticed Karen's called out some here as well.
Yeah.
She cited, She Works Hard for the Money by Donna Summer. Mm-hmm. She had another one here. Oh, Manic Monday. Yeah, Manic Monday.
She says it's all about Susanna Hoff's oversleeping and being late for work.
No part of the song takes place at work. It's about her needing to get to work, I think. Right? And upset that her boyfriend kept her up last night, right?
Being driven about that, Yeah, Marcus says the one I'm thinking about. He says, Rihanna was talking about something different altogether. Yeah, she has a song called Work. But so again, it was a handful of newer songs or post 90 songs, and none that were really, about actually the grind.
Right, punching the clock. Working for the man.
I'll give you some examples that I'm referring to that were pre 1990. 9 to 5 was mentioned already. Working Man by Rush, Factory, Bruce Springsteen, Manic Monday, Allentown, Working for a Living. We mentioned Blue Collar Man, Bang the Drum, Coal Miner's Daughter, talking about the coal miner. Oh, Car Wash Blues. Jim Croce's having to rub down some fenders, fantasizing about being, CEO. Working Girl by Cher, which is not affiliated with the film Working Girl, but is about working. Welcome to the Working Week, Elvis Costello, and Take This Job and Shove It.
Johnny Paycheck.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
All those songs came out in the 70s or 80s. I could throw in A Hard Day's Night from the Beatles to get us into the 1960s. But anyway, so this got me, I don't, offhand, as I was there shoveling the snow, I was like, I don't know that I could think of necessarily a good reason why people aren't singing about work today or haven't since. Except for the ones that sort of came to mind as, it sounded a little like, Old Man Shouts at Cloud, or in my day kind of things. So I did do some digging, but I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts first as to why you think folks aren't singing about working anymore.
It's a matter of volume. I think there are a lot fewer punch the clock, greasy knuckle, 9-to-5 industrial jobs for which you lament for getting off to stop sweating. I'm not saying there's none. Certainly there's plenty of manual labor jobs. But when I think of like Johnny Cash's One Piece at a Time, where over the years of his career working in an auto plant, he's stealing parts to build his own car. And you know the song. Anyway, that's very specific about auto workers. And now auto working is not a line of humans. It's some humans and a bunch of robots. And the robots don't listen to pop music, so maybe they don't need as many working songs. There's a lot more office work, but you're not going to have songs about, I was typing some more C# and I had to debug my code, right? It's not the kind of work that you need relief from physically. So you need mental breaks and that kind of thing. So I think as the workforce in the United States, which is predominantly where all these pop songs come from, right? As it drives toward the more technological and the less industrial and manual labor, there's less of a separation between what work and leisure feel like. It's not sweating and grunting and getting filthy. It's, I sit at a different desk and look at a different computer all day. It's, not everything, but things have shifted in that direction, less demand for that kind of music. That's my theory.
That's a great point.
Yes. And statistics back that up, John. You're absolutely right. The fact that we had a few of these songs that talk about working in an office.
Great show, everybody.
That's right. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. There's just a few songs in here that talk about office work. Otherwise, they're talking about something that's more laborious than that. And a lot of these jobs you're talking about, like manufacturing, et cetera. But as we were just talking about, like with Hollywood, manufacturing has shrunk about a third since the 1990s. And in counter to that, jobs that are, require different skills in training and education, health, business services have doubled in that same amount of time. In addition, when you throw technological advances, like John mentioned, robots and outsourcing, we've got less of these jobs to sing about. Along those lines, is anybody working 9 to 5 anymore?
Right.
And the other curiosity I think probably is a tangent to that is that the artists who wrote those songs, they or their families worked those jobs and therefore had a context, a framework on which to hang these lyrics, these songs. And as fewer people have those types of jobs, you're going to write about what you know. And if you don't know about that lifestyle, you don't know about the 9-to-5 grind and punching the clock and bringing home the lunch pail, doesn't mean anything to me. My dad worked in IT, right? So why would you think to make a song about it? So we just need different working songs now, right? Like Tennessee Ernie Ford sang about loading 16 tons of coal. Maybe he needs to sing, I had to cut 16 TikTok reels and what do you get, right?
Oh my God.
Another 20 followers and deeper in debt. Well,
Can you imagine?
Here comes a parody.
Right. I just wrote half of it.
Yes.
See, that's the kind of thing I suspected. Was like, the kids today think that jobs are, creating content, and they're and being famous is the goal.
Right.
Not even making money necessarily because you hardly make any money. I said kids, John. I was trying to get you to give you a break.
Thank you.
But with it, what I was surprised to learn, I suppose, is this idea that I suggested I put on the younger kids that they, what is it, Kat? Work to live? Well, not work to live.
Yeah.
Live to.
Well, you were saying it seems like people used to work to live.
Yeah.
So they could
don't live to work. I know there's some whatever you call it.
That would imply that that's John.
That's no work-life balance.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I didn't mean that exactly, but if you live to work, then you're perhaps enjoying what you're doing, or you don't have that good,
or you're just a workaholic,
possibly.
Right?
Sure.
So for some people, work is their identity.
Yeah.
Certainly more so today. Well, in a different way. I think 50s, 60s, 70s, work was your identity in that what's your profession is what you do. but it was a small part of their life because they didn't have to work 2 jobs and 3 jobs to do right. It was just kind of, here's the thing I do 8 hours a day in order to afford this palatial estate, and nobody else in the house works. And over time, as more people had to live to work just to survive, maybe it's less worth singing about than it used to be.
Yeah. Along those lines, I did dig into the numbers as far as, well, are we working more now or working less now? And it's about the same as it was. Certainly unemployment rates are at their all-time low right now. But even the percentage of people that are working past retirement is about this, or are working, it hasn't increased that much. People working multiple jobs today versus the 1980s is about the same as a percentage of the population. So it's not that.
Something just popped into my head about maybe it's like an ethic about it. It's maybe this speaks to what you were saying about the younger generations being soft. That could be part of it. But I wonder if working and what people did for a living was some sort of a point of pride back, in the 80s, or earlier than that. And maybe it's less something that people are proud of now. It's just, this is what I have to do. And they don't feel the need to, hey, I did that thing and now I can go, whatever, go party.
Changes of communication could factor in too, because 80s, 90s, up until late 90s at least, there was a separation where you could just turn off the phone. You could just not be involved with work. And so there was a much sharper delineation between work and social life. And so it was a clearer, it's muddier now. The overlap is such, I have a call tonight. I'll be on Zoom and we'll do what? I got to check an email right quick. I'm on vacation, but let me just see what's going on at the office, because you can. So there's not a punch the clock, screw this job, I'm going to go drinking. It's more of a, I don't actually clock out because I'm salaried, and I'll be at the bar, but I'll have my BlackBerry. And there's less of a delineation between work and social, I think. Now.
I was going to say that, Kat felt like was backing up your point that maybe people today don't want to be defined by their job. Whereas, many, many years ago, it would have been more common to just, I'm an X, I'm a Y.
Yep.
At parties I go to today, still people quickly get to, so what do you do?
Are you, like, if you're saying you're going to a party or some sort of a gathering?
Yeah, I go to parties too. You going to challenge that?
I do.
I have friends.
I meant, is it people, our generation? Is it people? Because I'm wondering if, the younger generation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
At their gatherings, they're probably talking about, hey, what game are you playing?
Right.
Hey, what character
how many followers
are
you got?
What's your, how many followers? What's your username on whatever? Like they might not be asking, what do you do?
What's your gamer tag, yo?
That's a good point, Kat. When I've been at gatherings that have, folks of different ages, the younger people don't usually say, what do you do? It's the people, peers, that say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they don't care what you do. You're old.
I'm just trying to get out of this conversation, man. So, I know Kat was, I think, trying to parrot what I was saying about maybe this younger generation being soft. But to be clear, it seems like, I did that on purpose. It seems like, that would get you in kind of a pickle if you believe that, because I'm just going to pickle. But because it really turns out that these kids can actually bear a lot. All right, all that's bullshit. It actually turns out that
was amazing.
I want to say they're that soft in the sense that it does turn out that the younger generations are less engaged, it says, with their jobs. So they don't feel as emotionally connected as prior generations. It also seems like they get, based on statistics, they get more stressed out at work than prior generations. And again, I don't know what the causes are necessarily, but it does seem to be some significant, and maybe it's related to COVID. Again, since a lot of them came to work during that era.
I thought of one more possible thing, just as you were saying that, which is with the democratization of music creation.
Okay.
Individuals who are making music come from all walks of life. They may not have worked their way up through the ranks and had a job already and worked in an industry or whatever. They might just be a kid who's has some talent and put out some music and it becomes popular. And that's all they did. right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so many of our pop artists, they had jobs. They worked at McDonald's. They worked at a plant or whatever before they got recognized or whatever. And now you might get recognized and start putting out pop music before you've had any other life experience available to you about which to sing and use this context.
Yes. And I think you're kind of getting to something that I thought I had an epiphany. But this idea of life-work balance, and I'm putting it on younger generations, it actually turns out that that seems to have begun with Gen X, because our parents were the baby boomers that were slaving away, often working so many hours that we were left home alone and unattended, and at the very least be latchkey kids, coming home from school after and letting ourselves in and taking care of ourselves, but maybe even more. So it seems that our generation, based on what I read, is the one that said, you know what, we need a better balance. I don't want to miss my kids' ball games like my dad did. I don't want to miss the school play like my mom didn't. I am going to make sure I only work enough hours to be able to do the things that I love. And thinking about that, it occurred to me, John, kind of what you're suggesting, that the folks who wrote all these songs I mentioned that we haven't heard since the 1980s, at the latest of the decade, those people are of a different generation than us.
Yep.
They're baby boomers.
They are. Yeah.
So in reality, our generation is the first to stop singing about work.
Yeah. Or very early Xers at best. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. So they're coming out of that inspired by the boomer mentality. And that makes sense.
All right. There you go. Hey, Brandon says Johnny Cash also had a song called, is that Oni? About a man punching his foreman out after 30 years of workplace abuse. So I don't know.
That's right.
Wow.
Marcus says not a
nice man.
Not a lot of pop music at all is the issue, I think. And what pop music is there is from very young people that never worked.
There you go. Yep.
Karen says more mental labor than physical. Yeah, we're kind of talking about that. It points to this past, weekend when, or a couple of weekends ago when TikTok was down. You could tell the difference between people who use social media as a hobby and use it to make money. I know there's a lot of people pissed. I wanted it to go away. I was like, thank God I don't have to learn how to use this. All right, there you go. Hey, that was the show.
And it was brought to you thanks in part to our early adopters, Karen Flieger and Rick Parker.
Go Rick.
And thank you especially to our Secret of Our Success level Patreon supporters. We'll call them Vitamin P. Brandon Greer, Nick Guillory, Marcus Taylor, Tony Great, Matt Marino, and John Henderson.
Thank you so much, guys. We are so grateful for your continued support of our show. Seriously, we are forever in your debt. We should make a song about you. That's what we should do. And it'll be a hit song. I got to learn how to rhyme all these names together.
I'll work on this.
Kat, she was reaching for something, John. It's only because you mentioned it earlier.
I know.
Why are you saying do it? John says do it. I say don't do it.
At least he didn't say work it.
You got to work as long as the word work is in there. But we're so grateful. If you can help, please join this group of fine folks. Go to patreon.com/1980s now. If you can't spare $1 or $2, then share a Facebook post. Sure you can. First, you're working for a living, right? $1 a month? Come on. Share a Facebook post. Share our show. Tell somebody of our generation, hey, check out these three folks chatting about different things. Using the 80s as a springboard for bigger topics.
But seriously, how would your life change if you had $1 fewer a month? Nothing. You wouldn't even feel it.
Yes.
But we would.
Yes. And after we've collected $12 from you for the year, if you need it back, we'll give it to you at some point in the future. No interest, though. No interest.
We'll be like an escrow for you.
Yes.
It's an interest-free loan. Right. It's a tax shelter, in fact. Just give us all your money. At the end of the year, we'll give it back through PayPal. Right. No, we're not going to do that.
Okay. All right. Hey, we will talk to you again next time on 1980s Now.
Until next time.
Yo, Adrian, I'm an ambassador.
That was a spot on Mel Gibson. Or was it John Voight?